EOS stands for Entrepreneurial Operating System, and this is a framework for managing your entire team and business from the strategic vision level to the daily operational tasks, all in one place. And it is developed by EOS Worldwide, and by clicking on the link in the description, you can learn more about all the key components of the EOS framework. And so this Notion template takes all the principles from the Entrepreneurial Operating System and puts them in one place so that you don't need to worry about getting all the pieces together, but rather you can just come here and run the key processes to ensure that your business runs smoothly and everyone in the team is accountable for their own actions. So really, this template is a what you see is all there is kind of Notion template, where you get into this page and here, whatever you click is what you get. So you have, starting from the EOS dashboard that we will explore later on in the video, where you get all the data from your daily tasks, scorecards that you need to track, as well as meetings. And then whenever you click on something, that is what you get. In this video, we're going to explore each component of the EOS model. And if you would like to get this template, then you can find the link in the description at the end of the video. Otherwise, you can also try to build the system by yourself, because in this video, I'm going to show you step by step what every component of this system looks like and the key principles behind them. Let's get started. The first key component of the EOS model is the Vision Traction Organizer. This is a regular exercise that you can go through to define your vision at a high level. What's the purpose of your business and what impact do you want to achieve in the long term, in 10 years, in society and in the world around you? And there is the traction component of it, which is how can we generate momentum and what are our key processes that can enable us to actually generate momentum and keep fostering our business and key activities so that in the long term, we can actually achieve that vision that we set for ourselves. And that's the Vision Traction Organizer that you can open right here. And the Vision Traction Organizer is an exercise that you can go through multiple times in a year, because this is something that you can have multiple versions of, because chances are over time your vision or your key processes might change a bit. And that's why you can have multiple versions of the Vision Traction Organizer. So whenever you want to create a new version, you can click on the new button here. Then let's open it in full screen mode, Control Enter. And then in here, you can have the version of your VTO. Let's say this is September 2022. Created time and created by, those are just metadata that are there for reference. And there is the status. It can be draft, it can be review, final, or historical. So final means that you have completed going through the overall VTO framework, and right now it's currently in use, and that's why it is under in progress. Whereas once this version becomes obsolete, then you can change the status to historical, and that means it's archived, and now we are currently using a new version of the VTO, and our vision has slightly changed, or our key processes and traction is slightly changed. Here on the page is where the actual exercise happens. So this takes some cognitive power and a bit of commitment to it, because you actually need to think about your business and what it is fundamentally about. There are two main sections in the VTO process. There is vision, that's a high level aspirations that you have, and there is traction, that is what can we do in the short and medium term to ensure that we can achieve the vision in the long term. So first you will start with vision, and the first thing that you do is define your core values. What are the fundamental values behind you, your organization, and your team? And then you can go on to the core focus. What's your purpose? What's your niche? And so this may sound quite trivial, but in fact, when you go back to your vision, to why you're doing things, to why you're operating, that is starting from first principle. Why are you doing this? And that can inform your vision better and inform your key actions on a daily basis, so that you are reminded why you're doing this at a very fundamental level, besides earning a living. Here, you can define your 10-year target. So that's your high-level aspiration, long-term vision. What's the impact that you can have on society, on a specific niche or group of people in 10 years. And then you have your marketing strategy, and you can have multiple marketing strategies that you can define in here by clicking on the plus button. But each marketing strategy has a target market that you can define and write down here. Then you have the 3 uniques that you can read more about here in the EOS Worldwide official blog post. And the 3 uniques are really your 3 key competitive propositions that set you apart from the competition or for any other player in the space where you're operating. And then here you have the proven process. What are the key processes that enable you to achieve your marketing strategy and your target market effectively, so that in the long term you can achieve your aspiration, your vision? And then you have the guarantee that you can write down here. What guarantees that your proven processes actually work? Then you can achieve your target market in the long term. Next up, you can define the 3-year picture. So the future date, let's say this is September 2025. That's in 3 years. And here we can see what's the revenue goal that we have in 3 years. And what's the profit goal that we have in 3 years. And what are the measurables that we need to track to ensure that we can actually understand whether we are on track or not on track to achieve our profit goal, our revenue goal, and eventually to see our trajectory getting closer to the 10-year target and vision that we have. And what does it look like? What does our business, organization, team, and each individual life looks like in 3 years if we were to commit properly to achieving the long-term vision? Next up, once you set up this foundational vision, now you can go back into short and medium-term planning, and that's traction. What can help us gain momentum in the short and medium term to ensure that we can actually achieve that vision in the long term? And so that's more at a tactical level. So here you have the 1-year plan, where you can define the future date in 1 year. What's the revenue amount that you want to make? What's the profit objective that you want to make in 1 year? What are the measurables that allow us to track our progress against the profit, revenue, and the overall vision? And what are the goals for the year? And so in here, you can set up already your goals. And goals are really a database in our overall system that you can access from the main dashboard called EOS model that you can see here in the top left corner. And each goal is an yearly goal. Each goal can also be broken down into rocks. Rocks are quarterly objectives linked to a goal. So in here, you can see all the future goals that you have. And whenever you create a new goal, and we'll see this later more in details, but this is what a goal page looks like. We have the achieve by date, we have the direct responsible individual, which is a very important component of the EOS framework, and the status. And then each goal can be broken down into quarterly rocks. And this is something that we're going to see later on. Because here, you can also define your rocks. And your rocks can be defined in 2 ways. Rocks are quarterly objectives, and you can either define them directly when setting up your goal in here, or you can additionally add rocks, quarterly objectives, down here in your yearly plan. And finally, you have issues. Issues are a fundamental component of the EOS model. For each issue, you want to IDS it. Identify, discuss, solve each issue. And the key process for identifying, discussing, solving issues is the level 10 meeting, which is a weekly meeting that you want to run and which is highly structured and where 60 minutes are allocated to solving issues. And so this is where you have the issues list, because the fundamental principle behind this is that issues will arise all the time in an organization and business, because business is complex by definition. And if you manage to systematically solve your issues and gain a bias toward action and toward deep reflection to understand the deep cause of an issue and to solve it properly through dedicated actions, then your business will thrive long term. Because addressing issues at the root cause is fundamental in business to keep everything running in a healthy manner. And that's where you can define your list of issues. And this is also where you can see any existing issues that are still open. And so this VTO exercise really is the first thing that you want to do, because at a high level, it allows you to set the foundations of the entire EOS model, going from the high level vision all the way to the yearly goals, quarterly rocks, and key issues that you will need to tackle in your level 10 meetings and also aside of them to ensure that you identify, discuss, and solve them according to the EOS principles. Goals and rocks are set during your Vision Traction Organizer process, but they can also be set later on and during your week or month. And so these databases are the master databases where you can access all your goals and all your rocks. Rocks are quarterly objectives. Goals are yearly objectives. There is a direct relation between goals and rocks. Each goal can be broken down into multiple rocks. So when you open the goals database in here, you will see goals are displayed by status: to do, in progress, complete. Very basic statuses. In here, you can also see your goals in a table format so that you can see the headers of each property in a more effective way. So when creating a new goal, really, you can click on the new button and you will see that there is a template that is applied by default in here. You can open the page in full screen mode and then name your goal. Yeah, you have the date by which you want to achieve that goal. Let's say that's a yearly goal. Let's say it is 2023, just like that. You know that the year is 2023. That's a formula. And then we have the direct responsible individual. That's a very important concept in the overall EOS model, because you want to have clearly responsible individuals so that accountability is there. It's not lacking. And there are people that can clearly report on the status of objectives, rocks, scorecards during your meetings, as well as during the business as usual. So that's the idea of the direct responsible, but you can choose from the list of Notion users that you have. In here, you have the status, and then you have the progress bar, and that is determined by the rocks that you completed for this goal. So for each goal, you can describe the goal right here on the page, so that if I were a team member who didn't know about this goal, I can come here and understand exactly what this goal is about and why we are pursuing it. If I'm the direct responsible for this goal, I can also be reminded every time I open this page why I'm doing this and what this is actually all about in the overall vision of the business. And in here, you can break down your goal into quarterly rocks. So you can create a new rock, achieve by, and that's a date as well. And then you have the status. And each rock as well, just like goals, is a page that you can open and customize accordingly in here. If you want to add text, images, links to documents, whatever you need, and you can at any time type / to prompt the list of commands that you can use in Notion, and you can scroll your way down the list to see all the options that you have and what you can do within each Notion page. And that's really it for goals and rocks. Every goal can be broken down into multiple quarterly rocks. And every goal and rock eventually is there to advance the overall team and organization towards reaching the higher vision set during the current version of the VTO process. Next up, there are measurables. Measurables are the components of your scorecard. Your scorecard is composed of measurables that you want to track every week to see if the trend is upward, downward, the same. And based on your measurable and the target that you have for each measurable, you can then adjust. And this process of revision happens in the level 10 meetings. And that's the term that the EOS worldwide organization uses in the Entrepreneurial operating system to define meetings that are highly effective and structured. And we're going to see meetings later on in the video. For now, let's focus on scorecards. So if you open the scorecard database, in here you will find all your measurables. Each measurable can be tracked weekly, and each measurable has clear components in it. So if you were to create a new measurable, you can click on the new button, and here is the name of your measurable. The name of your measurable is the description of what your target objective is that you want to track, really. So let's say this is, so that's your measurable. You want to track this weekly, and the accountable person to track this measurable can be chosen right there. Then you have the unit of measure. Is it a number or is it a percentage? That's a number. And then you have the operator. Do you want that number to be greater, less than, or equal to a specific number? Let's say that we want to have new leads via Facebook ads per week to be greater or equal than 10. And so now we have a summary that says new leads via Facebook ads per week must be greater or equal than 10. So that's our target that you want to achieve on a weekly basis and that you want to track weekly so that we can discuss it later on and have a clear track record of our trend when it comes to getting leads from Facebook ads. And then over time, we can see patterns and adjust accordingly. So in here, you can archive a measurable if you don't use it anymore after some time, but it's going to stay in the system if you want to retrieve it as well. Within each measurable page, you have the weekly tracker. And that's where every week, the irresponsible individual here, the accountable individual, can track the scorecard item. And so in here, I can enter a new week. I have the operator. We know that's greater or equal than. The weekly goal is 10. And what's the number that we achieved this week? So let's say this week we had 8 new leads from Facebook ads. And so we know that the trend is red. And that's because it is not greater than or equal to 10. If it was 10, the trend is green, which means we achieved target this week. And every week you can come here, enter a new row and the weekly data. And then on a weekly basis or on a monthly basis, you can review all your weeks and see what the trend is and whether you need to adjust or not based on your trend. That's the idea of the weekly tracker, really, and of each measurable that is part of your overall scorecard. Each accountable individual will see their own measurables within their own dashboard that you're going to see later on, and that's what they can track on a weekly basis. The target and the weekly actual number and compare them. When it comes to headlines, issues list, and to-dos, these are the master databases containing each object. So in the EOS framework, headlines are any news that you need to share weekly on your level 10 meetings. And they are not really tasks, they are not goals, but they are worth mentioning items that you want to share during your meetings so that everyone is on the same page and aware of what's going on in the ecosystem of your team. The issues list is the master database containing all your issues that you IDS'd over time, identified, discussed, solved over time, or that you need to IDS. And these issues as well arise from your level 10 meetings. And to-dos are the actionable items that are somewhat linked to rocks and goals and that come out of the level 10 meeting. And to-dos by default need to have a weekly deadline. So every week you want to complete the tasks from the previous week so that you can report on all those tasks in your weekly level 10 meeting. And so the level 10 meeting really is a key component of the EOS system. And that's why right now we're going to get into that so that we can also understand headlines, issues, and to-dos as part of the level 10 meeting. So this is the calendar of level 10 meetings. And here is where you can create new entries for your meeting. So let's say you have a weekly meeting that is a level 10 meeting, that's just how the EOS team calls it. A level 10 meeting is a highly effective and structured meeting whose first rule is that the meeting starts exactly on time, because that sets the pace and the overall atmosphere in a meeting. So in here, you can create a new meeting. Let's say this is, if it's a department-specific meeting, you can check this box, just as a way to let everyone know that this is only a department meeting. Otherwise, you can keep it unchecked. Here, you have the owner of the meeting that you can pick from the list of people. And here you have all the attendees of the meeting that you can also pick from the list of Notion users. Here you have the start time. Let's say that's today. So I'm going to choose today. And then here you can include the time. Let's say 11 a.m. We have the duration of the meeting. And level 10 meetings by default last 90 minutes because there is a clear schedule that the EOS team and model provides. And so the end time is automatically calculated based on the duration of the meeting. Here, you can define what's the related vision traction organizer version for this meeting, because the VTO is the first component of the entrepreneurial operating system, and you want to refer back to your vision and traction at any time. And so what's the most recent version? This is where you can define that. In our case, September 2022 can be the latest version that we are using for this meeting. Now, there are three main sections in the level 10 meeting agenda. Reporting mode is the first phase of the meeting. And here, you just discuss things. You do not try to solve issues. You do not try to think about problems. You just report. Then you have IDS mode. And this is the bulk of your meeting. It's going to last 60 minutes. And this is where you want to get into that problem-solving state and do the identify, discuss, solve component of your meeting that is key in managing your team and business effectively, because issues arise from all over the place. And if you are successful at prioritizing those issues and then discussing them effectively and systematically and tackling them properly at the root cause of them, then your business will run properly. And that's why the IDS mode is the second one, and it's going to be the longest in the level 10 meeting. And finally, you have the conclusion of the meeting. And that's the section of the meeting where you will just discuss the next action items that you will assign to specific individuals to be completed during the next week. And then you can also recap the whole meeting and rate it as well to ensure that on a weekly basis, you can improve your quality of level 10 meeting and that everyone can actually feel a part of it. So first, reporting mode. There is this segue. So that's where you start the meeting, and for 5 minutes, everyone says good personal or professional news. It can be whatever. For 5 minutes, you're going to set the pace and start the meeting slowly. Next up, you want to review your scorecard items. So these are all the measurables that you have in your scorecard. And during these 5 minutes, you can open each scorecard and you can see when it was last tracked, and you can see the weekly tracker and the overall trend and what the weekly numbers are. And you can do so for each active measurable. And now you do not want to analyze the trend, you just want to review them. And if you notice any issues arising while you analyze the scorecard, for example, you see that there is a lot of red trends in here, then the dedicated note taker can already go down in the level 10 meeting agenda and add new issues or note them down somewhere, so that in the IDS phase, you can actually start tackling those issues that you noticed arising during your reporting mode. In the next 5 minutes, you want to review your rocks. Rocks are quarterly objectives. And in here, you can just review them, at least those that are in progress. You can review them. You can even open the page to see if there is any information within them and discuss the overall status, but without judgment. You just review them. Next up, for 5 minutes, you want to look at customers and employees' headlines. So in here, if you have any headline that was added during the week, then it's going to appear right here. And that's from the master headlines database. So this is what a headline looks like. Here, you're going to have the title of the headline. If you want to have more context, you can use the page to write down what this headline is about. And during this section of the meeting, you will just discuss these headlines and speak them out loud. For 5 minutes, you want to review last week's to-dos. What got done, what didn't get done, and that's it. The next key phase of the level 10 meeting is the IDS mode. Here, you are in problem-solving mode, so you're going to actively solve issues. This lasts 60 minutes. And for 60 minutes, the first thing that you want to do is prioritize issues by dragging and dropping them. So here are the issues that you have gathered and that haven't been archived yet, which means they need to be solved. And so from here, you have your entire list of issues. You can also add the new issues that arose during this meeting here as well. And then the first thing that you do is you drag those issues up. So let's say issue 3 is the highest priority one, and it's very important that we solve this. Then you're going to drag and drop it right there above everything else. And then we want to work our way down the issue list. And if you just manage to IDS one issue, that's okay. The key thing is that that issue is the most important one, because if we tackle that and we manage to go through the IDS process for that issue, that's definitely a win if we actually discussed and solved it. So it doesn't really matter how many issues you solve. It does matter that you go through them in priority, from the highest priority to the lowest priority. So once 60 minutes have passed, then you can move on to the conclude section. So for each issue, we'll open the page. You can open it in full screen mode as well to have more clarity. And then in here, you can go through identify the real issue. What is the issue really? That you want to go to the very core. Why is the issue here? What does that mean really? What is the fundamental assumption that we have and the fundamental root cause of this issue? So once you define that, then you can move on to discussing it in your team. So what are the potential solutions? Why do we think this issue arose? What do we see in the future that could actually help us solve this issue? And once you have all the options and ideas on the table, then there must be one decision maker at least that actually gets into deciding what the solution is, what the course of action is to solve this issue, so that in the end, you can add action items in here and add specific accountable individuals to ensure that this issue actually gets tackled properly at the root cause. And then next week, we can review this issue as well and the to-dos for this issue during the level 10 meeting. And finally, in the conclude section, you want to recap your to-do list from this meeting. Most of the to-dos are going to come from the issue list. And then you can discuss any messages that will need to be broadcasted in the team. And you can also rate your meeting from 1 to 10 to ensure that on a weekly basis, you aim to improve your meeting, whatever that means, and ensure that your team is aligned on what it means to have a great meeting that is valuable, effective, and actually enables you to propel your vision forward. Two key components of the EOS model are people and documentation. So people is the database where you can add your directory, so that if everyone wants to understand who are the people in your team, they can come here and find any contact information or details about that person. And so you will see that each user has the role where you can write down what's the role in the overall team of that person. You have their email address and the headshot where you can upload the image of that person. Image that is going to be displayed here as the preview of each card. Next up, you have documentation. And this is very important because this is where you can add your standard operating procedures or any key processes and documents that you have within the company and the team, so that if you onboard new talent or if anyone has a question, they can come here and search for any documents that you might have containing the answer to their question, query, or helping you onboard a new team member effectively without wasting time in the details. And so documentation is a key aspect because the processes that you have and documenting them is incredibly useful for the overall team and for the overall scalability of your business over time. And finally, really everything boils down and is displayed in the EOS dashboard. And this is where each member of your team can come and see their to-do items, their meetings of the week, their rocks, and their measurables. These are the key components that everyone needs to work on a daily basis. So my tasks are going to be shown here, and you can see them due this week and all open tasks. And so whenever I have a task in here, this is what a task looks like. You have the owner, the due date, you can pick in here. You have any notes, and you have the status. And then each task is a page. And so in here, if you want to have a list of checklist items, you can use the command / to-do list, then note down your items in here to ensure that the task is properly executed. Here you will see your meetings of the week. Your meetings, because these are the meetings where you are listed either as an owner or as an attendee. Here you can reference your rocks, your quarterly goals, so that if you need to change the status of any rock, you can come here and define the status better, so that everything is kept up to date from the accountable individual as opposed to from some central authority that is top down providing inputs and decision-making power. And here you have my scorecards. And these are very important as well, because these are kept on a weekly basis or on a monthly basis. It depends on the time frame of the measurable that you want to track. But then here, on a weekly basis, let's say, we need to track this one, because that's a measurable that you want to track weekly. And so you can open the page as an accountable individual, and you will take 1 minute to add a new row and add the actual number of the week, and that is it. So each accountable individual is fundamental for the proper functioning of the overall organization. And that's what the EOS model stands for and is all about. And this is what this Notion template attempts to effectively implement. A place for you to manage your entire business using some key components from the Entrepreneurial operating system, so that you can actually stay in one software and organize everything by defining clear accountability. Thank you for watching, and see you soon.